Welcome to the Table Talk. This is a place for real conversations, real growth, and real journeys. Every journey starts somewhere. Behind every achievement, every setback, and every breakthrough is a story worth telling. The Table Talk is where those stories come to life through open, honest, and meaningful conversation. Each episode brings together people from different walks of life to share their experiences, the challenges they faced, the lessons they've learned, and the moments that have shaped who they are today. We go beyond the highlights to explore the mindset, resilience, and personal growth that happens along the way. Our goal is simple: to create a space where people feel heard, where listeners can relate, and where every conversation leaves you with something to reflect on and take into your own journey. So, whether you're chasing a dream, navigating a challenge, or simply looking for inspiration, pull up a chair and join us at the table. This is the Table Talk, real conversations, real growth, real journeys. Hello, everyone. We're back again. We're back with the one and only George.
Hello, mate. You're right.
How are we doing?
I'm very well. I love the introduction. It's
Yeah, that was my new little
yeah, it's good,
my
mate.
new little spiel. I've decided
Awesome, man.
to
Awesome.
go
And yeah,
with.
I love how real that was as well. Now it's really nice that you explain what it's all about because essentially
Yes,
we were just talking about this just now where we live in a world of AI and this and that. Like having just a real relatable human talking is almost like a thing of the past nowadays in a lot of ways, you know. So it's quite nice that you're doing what you're doing, Tom. Well done.
thank you so much. So for everyone that listened to part one, we are going to do part two. George has kindly jumped on, and we're both there and we're ready to give it a go. So we started with your beginning about your ADHD, and now we're going on to the coaching side, and then we're looking further into any advice and inspiration that you give. So we'll just jump straight in. So we'll go to when a person enrolls with you, starts working with you. What do you find that the usual what's the usual struggles? What do they usually come to you with?
It's a good question. And I mean, the short answer is they come to you with ADHD challenges, but the long, but the long answer is it varies, Tom. It does vary. But if you want me to sort of give you some commonalities, some of the most common things that I see that people are struggling most with, and this is the number one thing, is they struggle with not being fully aware of what the actual problem is, the underlying thing that they're kind of going through. And I always say to you that you can't fix problems that you do not accept. You can't fix problems that you are not aware of, right? So the biggest struggle that people have is they don't really know the root of what the actual struggle is. I know it sounds cliche and it's probably not directly ADHD related, but that's probably the biggest thing. Because the second you understand fully what's going on, Tom, within sort of a day or sometimes even like a week or just a few hours for some people, you can quite easily create quite a quick breakthrough. The second you understand what's going on. In other words, you've seen the pattern, you've recognized the pattern, now you know how to change the pattern. You know what I mean? But second to being fully aware, one of the biggest things that I see is the fear, the fear inside of people with ADHD, but not so much the fear of not being good enough, the fear of failing, the fear of not being worthy enough, the fear of being rejected. All those are very common struggles to people that people with ADHD have. But the biggest one is the fear of success. Honestly, it's the number one struggle that I see, and it's underlined with self-sabotage written all over. You know, it's the fear of I'm so used to being in this pain that for whatever reason, God forbid, I actually got everything I wanted. God forbid I'm get out of there. God forbid that my relationship thrives. God forbid that I get my dream job. How will I handle that? And it's that fear of success. Does that make sense?
It does. It does because that was an area I came to you about, and that was something we
Yeah,
had
it
to
was.
navigate our journey through. But it's
Yeah,
paid dividends now because it feels like a doorway just opens for it. And
yeah.
it leads on to the next question was, what do you notice in the patterns between people who have ADHD and adults?
So one of the things I want to say just before we kind of get to that is I remember when you first spoke, and I think it's quite interesting to say this because obviously you want to be relatable, right?
Yes,
And I want you
definitely.
to know that the position that you're in, it wasn't like a natural, easy, just I just jumped into what you're doing today. It was a journey, and they say behind the glory, there's always a story. And I remember when me and you first spoke, Tom, and I said to you along the lines of again, don't quote me word for word, but it's along the lines of if there was a solution for you, essentially, when would you be wanting to start? And he was like, well, I wanted to start probably in the new year, this and that. And I said to you, I was like, why not now? And I feel like I spoke to that subconscious part of your brain that was prepared to delay and avoid because you wanted to get somewhere, but you didn't actually want to get there in reality. You wanted to get there in your mind, but not in reality. So I just thought I'd share that, Tom. Do you remember that conversation that we had?
Yes. I mean, to be fair, I remember it as clear as day. It's
Yeah,
more,
me too.
I think it's especially with ADHD, there's a lot of like the waiting mode.
Yeah.
That seems
Waiting
to
for
be
tomorrow.
the waiting mode, the decision paralysis is that. And I think you're just stuck in that sort of zone.
I held you accountable, Tom.
Yes.
I held you
Yeah. And
accountable. And that's what a lot of
accountability.
people need. A lot of
Yeah.
people
Accountability is everything.
they need accountability, man.
Yeah.
You need to be held accountable. You know, it would be wrong of me as a coach. A good coach will never ever let you sell to yourself the idea of why staying stuck is the better option. A good coach will never allow you to believe that. I would much rather you cut off the call and disconnect the call and never spoke to me again. But you made that decision, not me just saying, "Oh yeah, I understand you. Take your time," because I know that's not the real reason. You know what I mean? So yeah, essentially, it's accountability and just understanding from a perspective that the only way to break out of a place that you don't want to be to go to a place that you do need to be in, or you really deep down want to be in an ideal world, is to take action, and action is never comfortable. You know what I mean? So that is just something that I just really wanted to sort of add on to what you just said. And remind me what your question was, Tom. I'm going to do an ADHD fashion. What was the question you asked?
So essentially, it's just what are the patterns you notice when you work with people who have ADHD? Just simple
The,
question.
the patterns I've noticed is everyone masks. We are professional masking people, whatever you want to call us. You know, literally, we could literally be depressed, rock bottom, not knowing where we're coming or going. We could look in the mirror, Tom, and not even know who we are. Because we spent so long just not feeling worthy, not feeling confidence, searching externally for dopamine and excitement. That the biggest, most common thing that I see is masking, one of those top behavior patterns. And when I say masking, let me just elaborate, just expand on that a little bit, Tom. Masking means you're sitting in a room, and again, if you're listening to this and you have ADHD, let me know if it's something you can resonate with. But imagine sitting in a room and you got people around you, and when they laugh, you just suddenly have a little giggle. You don't even know what they're talking about. You might not even find it funny, but you might just laugh a little bit, because other people are laughing, essentially. You've got other. Are you there, Tom?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Yeah, yeah, cool, cool. Sorry, I thought it froze. Um, you've got other situations where they might sort of follow a crowd, as there's something that's happening in a group, almost peer pressure, let's call it, and they don't really agree with it, but they'll just go with it. They might agree with other ideologies that maybe deep down they don't agree with, but they'll just go with it. They're just trying to see how can I fit in and what character can I play to best suit the environment I'm in. So yeah, mask is a big one. Those are specific characters. Another big behavior trait is
Can
task
I can I
paralysis.
just can I just add
Yeah,
something?
sure.
Is did you ever mask?
Oh man, like crazy, like crazy. It was so bad for me. So I'm just kind of give you perspective. I was also diagnosed with an anxiety disorder as well as ADHD because I used to get so much anxiety around was I playing the right character for the scene I was on. I'd stand there and I'd be like, okay, cool. So I've got these three guys that I'm chilling with now, and they are all talking about this specific topic. So I'll be like, all right, cool. Let me just pretend I know what it is and just say your sentence so they think I know what I'm talking about. This is how I used to think, man. Yeah, it was really bad. Honestly, I've helped over 100 people from all around the world, Tom, and I've spoken to thousands. I've been on stages with hundreds of people in front of me, and I've never ever been in a position where I've said to myself, I've said to the crowd, put your hand up if you've masked once or twice, and everyone's put their hand up. Very common, very common. And another behavior trait is not just masking, but if we were to kind of take it a step further, like I say, it's task paralysis and avoiding tasks. You might find that you might have something really important to do. It's pretty easy. Maybe it's like sending an email, but your brain would figure out 10 very difficult things to do, much more complex, much more challenging, just to avoid the task that you need to actually get done. And I'm sure we've all experienced that once or twice in our lives as well. And that's called task avoidance. I mean, the amount of times where, and you're needed to do things. I mean, real life examples. And instead of knowing what I need to do, I just need to send one quick email to something for work or business, whatever that look like. But then I'll say to my wife, hey, do you need me to go to Tesco's or shopping just to kind of get some stuff? Even though she was happy to do it herself, I would just volunteer to go and do it to avoid what I just needed to do. Very, very common traits. And don't get me wrong, these things are very fixable with the right support, the right strategy, the right guidance, but you can really feel like you're behind, you know, when you don't actually understand how to break out of that pattern. And then you think it's just you think you're stupid. And I spoke to a lady today, God bless her. She literally thought she was so weird. She was like, am I weird? Is there something wrong? Am I a loser? She literally asked me, am I a loser? Like genuinely asking me with not a
Yeah,
rhetorical question, just a genuine, is there something wrong with me? And I had to make her understand that the most successful people on the planet all have ADHD. You know, Jeff Bezos, Simone Biles, Olympic athletes, you name it, Will I Am, Channing Tatum, all these people, Richard Branson, all these people have ADHD. So essentially, if you think you're weird, then they must be weird, right? And these people are the most inspirational, successful people on the planet, some of them. So no, you're not weird. And if you want to be weird, embrace it. Say, I'm weird and I love it. I love who I am, you know?
absolutely. So we'll just move on from that is when do you notice when you're working with someone, when do you notice them understanding a shift in their behavior and they're understanding their brain a little bit better as well?
Oh, it's like night and day, Tom. Within the first 72 hours, something big changes. Because you got to think, right, you've been stuck in your own way for maybe so many years, decades for some people, right? Imagine driving 100 miles an hour down one part of the journey. You're driving down 100 miles an hour down a road. The second you start in the academy, instantly we put a brake on that. We slow it down. We stop the car. That's a huge shift. So there's an instant breakthrough. I notice it within the first 3 to 4 days. There's an instant breakthrough. And I'll tell you what the breakthrough I see to be the most common breakthrough is when people automatically just start believing in themselves a little bit more. See, they've gone through their whole life saying, I'm broken, I'm not good enough, I can't be fixed, no one cares about me. All of a sudden, they step into an academy where everyone cares about them, everyone understands them. These are foreign bits of information to their brain, right? And then they suddenly see that, hold on a minute, I was in a tough position. But normally I burst out into tears or I get overwhelmed or anxious and I run away from it. But I actually handled it a bit better this time. A huge breakthrough. And all of a sudden, that result then affirms to their brain, hey, maybe you can change. That's the number one breakthrough. The quick thing,
Yeah,
3 to 5 days is the first thing I see. And that is what it is, this instant belief and that you can change and that you're not alone. And then after that, you start to see that changes happen over time. There's a saying that goes, small levers open up big doors. And we don't ever talk about anything massive in the academy. As you know, Tom, you part of the group, right? We don't teach you something huge where you've got to revise for 10 years for it. It's just very small things. But there are lots of small pebbles put on top of each other create a mountain, you know?
I definitely know. It's just actually, I mean, off the back of because we spoke about this it feels like weird now because
Yeah,
you spoke about this podcast, we spoke about it,
a long time
and
ago.
but the the growth and support I'm having now is amazing. Like, do you know what I mean? It's so grateful for it. It's going from strength to strength, and just touching on that, there was individuals in your academy, and I decided upon myself to create a community chat, just a
Yeah,
safe space. So I still provide a little bit of a space with um, Justina, Marcus,
nice, man.
and Isha as well. And
Awesome.
and to be fair, seeing them, I mean, they probably don't mind me sharing, but still seeing them going from strength to strength
Amazing.
is wow. I think is just shows that you've made an impact to
Yeah.
sort of create a sub sort of focus group, and it's something I want to open up to people as a community, just as a safe space
Oh,
for
that's
people who are neurodivergent. But yeah, it just shows about where it can take you when you finally. We spoke a lot about unmasking, unmasking, and actually embracing yourself. So that's where we are on our journeys. but obviously it started with you
Yeah. Everything has to
first.
start somewhere, Tom. You know, they say you don't
Yeah,
have to be great to get started, but you have to get started to be great, right? And
exactly.
sometimes you have something called the ripple effect, which is I help you, you help the next person helps the next person, and it just ripples down the chain, you know. And that's always been my goal, you know. For those that don't know who I am and what my mission is, my actual mission is to help 1 million people before I'm dead. And when I say 1 million people, it doesn't necessarily have to be like 1 million people directly, like how I've helped you, Tom. It could be how you've now gone to continue to help maybe Isha or Marcus. I spoke to Marcus the other day, funny enough, and we had a little catch up because he's looking to do
Yeah,
the culture business as well. And
he's a top person, Marcus.
oh, he's a great guy, man.
He
Everyone's
is.
everyone's so nice, you know. Everyone's so
Yeah,
nice, you know. And it's just a case of creating like a safe space where number one, if you want to help someone with ADHD, make sure they realize that they're not alone. You know, that's like literally rule
that's
101.
really useful for people listening who are neurotypical, because I think I get a lot of listeners, and for you to say that, and then probably for me to enforce that, is that inclusion and feeling belonged is so important.
100%, man. Absolutely agree. It's crucial, man, because let's be honest, we live in a neurotypical world. Schools neurotypical, playgroup is neurotypical, nursery is neurotypical, secondary school is neurotypical, college is neurotypical. And then on top of it all being neurotypically biased, we get told off for being neurodiverse. Oh, you know, Tom or George, he was distracted in class and he started talking to his friend on the left and he wasn't listening. What do you expect? You know, think about it. Like we are born to be curious. So if we hear a pin drop from a mile away, our brains are going to go, "What? What's that? Ooh?" Like a dog when the ears go up, it's like you're going to hear it, and then we want to know what it's all about, you know. And then we'll be impulsive, and then start to be creative, and then we start doodling. One of the most common traits I see people with ADHD as well is doodling. Show me any person with ADHD, and I'll show you a piece of paper where they just doodle and doodle and doodle. Smiley faces, squares, circles, triangles, whatever you name it. It's there, right? I'm sure you've done it as well, Tom. But we were getting told off for things like that. And when that happens, we then naturally, part of being a human is if you get knocked down time and time again, you just maybe sometimes feel like maybe you don't belong there. And when you don't feel like you belong somewhere, the first thing that happens is you feel like your worthiness goes down. Because your brain, your subconscious part of your brain that controls 95% of all your thoughts, feelings, your actions, and essentially the results that you see in your life, when you don't feel worthy, all of a sudden your confidence dips. Because your confidence doesn't go up if you don't feel worthy, right? But when your confidence dips and you don't feel worthy because you've been told many times that you don't belong somewhere indirectly, then your internal dopamine fades. And when your internal dopamine and your internal happiness starts to disappear, naturally, your brain, to survive, it has to find dopamine and happiness externally to yourself. So then it starts looking outside of yourself for happiness. But if you look outside of yourself for so long or long enough, you start to lose who you are. Then you lose your identity. And you look in the mirror, I don't know who this guy is, you tell yourself. Because you don't know who you are, because you spent so much of your life looking outside for validation, for happiness. And then when you're looking outside of yourself, your boundaries naturally drop. And the fastest way to be seen and to be heard and to be almost like artificially understood is to people please. And then people pleasing is when we get locked in and you become a people pleaser. And then you start doing everything for others, saying yes to all, but never to yourself. You start jumping into toxic relationships because you feel bad to jump out of it. And it just becomes a vicious cycle. You know, this is what, by the way, this is what I call the cycle of doom inside of the academy. It's a very common cycle that 99% of people with ADHD go through. I thought it was more worth sharing that.
No, that's just key information for people to take on. So the next question says, what does successful ADHD coaching look like to you? What would you say it looks like?
Impact. The fact that you have just told me that you, obviously I knew this already, but the fact that you just affirmed that you've got another group from my group, people that you've created a safe space for, that is for me more, that's paid me more than any financial investment that someone can pay me. There's nothing more rewarding. I always say that if you want to feel fulfilled, you need to go outside of yourself. You need to do something bigger than yourself. And the only way to do that is to people have it from kids, people have it from helping people beyond themselves, you know, sacrificing a part of you for a bigger purpose. And that's exactly what you're doing. So for me, success in coaching is impact, man. Impact all the way. In fact, I'm talking about that from my first-hand experience being in a coach, an ADHD coach and mentor with ADHD. But honestly, I would say for like 80% of coaches in the world, it's probably a similar answer. You know, coaches, even business coaches, they're not coaches for money. Like it might seem that way, but essentially, the biggest reward is when someone turns to you and says, "Hey, man, thanks. Because of you, I'm now able to provide for my kids better. I'm able to shout better for my wife or my husband or my spouse or my partner, wherever it might be. Because of you, I've not got anxiety. Because of you, I'm able to get promoted at work because I can handle a tougher position." There's nothing more rewarding than that. And that is, for me, what true success looks like. They say that success is not the key to happiness. Happiness is the key to success. And I genuinely believe that true happiness can come when you feel fulfilled, and fulfillment comes when you think about something outside of yourself. But like a lot of people say, success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure. So we always remember that. Success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure. If you are successful monetarily, like you've got money in the bank, and you say, "I've got success," you're not fulfilled, man. You're constantly chasing day by day. You've failed more than anyone, man.
I think this is the biggest thing for me is I've been having conversations with people who have ADHD, and that is their biggest thing. And I was in that boat for so many years before I understood everything. It's like that constant chase. It was always that chase. And then I slowly, it kind of touches upon the next question I'm going to ask is what are the misconceptions is you feel like you have to chase it when everything you have, like everything is exactly where it is to be, if you know what I mean. Everything is here now. If you keep chasing, it's like you're almost,
Yeah. Like a hamster on a hamster wheel.
yeah, you're
Yeah,
you miss. There's a great thing actually, and I spoke to him today. It's football related. A guy called Steve Lilly, and I spoke to him once about communication and um, emotions actually, and coaching in a session, a football one. And he said the more emotional you are, the more you'll miss details in the game. And I thought that was
yeah,
a great analogy of just even
spot on.
applying it to life. The more you just sort of look at the bigger picture, the more you're losing your perspective in the here and the now.
100%, man. That is spot on. I mean, let's be honest. When you make decisions based on emotions, they're very bad decisions. You know, when you make decisions based on data, you get very good decisions. People make decisions that are based on emotions 9 times out of 10 with ADHD. And the problem that comes with that is that you see a shiny object, you want to buy it because it makes you feel good. It's an emotional decision. You see an opportunity to have an argument. You don't realize it at the time, but the reason why you want to have an argument is because you want dopamine. Dopamine comes from adrenaline. So you are argumentative, or you love to debate people. You love to disagree all the time. Even if you kind of agree, you want to disagree because it gives you that little feel of dopamine, or binge eating, or this and that. You know, it's all about that kind of emotional attachment to something just for dopamine. You know, I really fancy a packet of crisps. I've worked hard this week. Bollocks. You don't need it, you know? But one of the things I want to say, Tom, and I'll just kind of going on to what you just said, but I really want to just explain the reasons why, because a lot of people listening to this might want to understand where this all comes from. You know what I mean? So people with ADHD, just for context, we lack blood flow to the prefrontal cortex. We have less blood flow. And when that happens, we naturally wake up with less happiness, less dopamine inside of us, less focus than the normal person. So when that happens, the best way to feel excited, quote unquote, is to chase something. Because if you're chasing something, it gives you like almost like a reward. It's like playing a game, right? If you do this, then you win that. And it's like a game. It's like you play football, you know, you go into the pitch to win the game. It's like a dopamine chase, it's like the after effect. And the number one question that people ask is, will I ever stop feeling unfulfilled? Will there ever be a time where I could just stop chasing? Of course there is. The time you stop chasing is when you stop chasing the destination and start focusing on whilst you're on the journey, start focusing on who you are becoming on the journey more than where you're heading. In other words, let me give you a real life example, right? Let's just say, for example, I wanted to build a business. And my goal was to make £10,000 per month. And right now I'm working for a company on a 9 to 5 job and I'm making 2 grand a month. You mean so far? So my goal is to 10K a month. If that just becomes your goal, when you hit 10K a month, you're going to be very unfulfilled. You know, I could tell you now, there was a time when I was making 2K a month, and there's been times where I made 70K a month, and I've not felt any different financially, mentally, emotionally, nothing's changed. But the reason I'm trying to say is, Tom, is that if you stop focusing on the end goal, say the end goal is, say, for example, 10K a month and have your own business. But what about if you ask yourself another question? If I was to be in that position, Tom, if I was in that position today, what kind of character traits would I have developed? What kind of personality would I have? What kind of mindset would I have adopted to be in that position? And write down the character traits that you would have adopted. In order for someone to be in that position, by definition, they have to be doing something different to what they're doing now. They have to have a different mindset to what they've got now. They have to have a different way of thinking, a different characteristic trait, a different way of living to get to that place. So then you just ask yourself, okay, cool, that character trait, if I was to start implementing that character trait, as if I already made 10K a month and I've got my own business into today, firstly, it speeds up the goal to a destination. You get there faster because you start becoming the person that you're going to become in like the next year or two, wherever it's going to be. Start already becoming that person, first thing. Second of all, your brain thinks that it's already achieved the goal. So when it thinks that it's already achieved the goal, then all of a sudden you live every single day in abundance because you feel like you're always winning. And that's the biggest secret is it's not about where you're going, it's about how you become on the journey. And I'll give you a real life example. Give me a film that you love. What's your favorite movie? Just tell me top of your head. What's like a movie that stands out for you?
Oh, that's a tough question. There's so many out
Movie
there.
that you watched more than once.
Uh, oh, you put me right on the spot here. Do you know what? I love Casino Royale,
Awesome. Have
James
you watched it
Bond.
more than once?
Yes.
Okay. When you clicked on it the second time to watch it, did you just click start and then go straight to the last 2 minutes of the movie, or did you actually watch the whole 2 hours of that
I
movie?
watched it through. Yeah.
And even though you watched it before, did you still enjoy it the second time and still got a little buzz from it and still liked it?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
The poker scene in that film is phenomenal.
Yeah, that's a good scene.
Yeah.
I want you to recognize, Tom, why you watched it the second time. Don't just watch it, but ask yourself why. Not just, oh, I watched it, but why? You see, what was it more enticing to you is that you enjoyed the journey of the movie, not the end of the movie. Think about it. You know what was going to happen. You could have fast forwarded it, but you chose to sit there and enjoy every minute of that 2 hour movie twice, maybe even more. So if you now was to adopt that principle to your day-to-day life, imagine if you was to see your life as a movie and say, today is a movie. I'm going to wake up tomorrow. That's another movie. Wake up the day after. That's another movie. So the movie starts as George has woken up in the morning. And everyone loves an underdog story. Everyone loves a movie where there's a few obstacles, on the road, a few hurdles, a few bumps, but then you always end up on top. Everyone loves a feel good. So how can we now make Tom and Julie's life today a story that we enjoy as we go in? And if you can honestly adopt that, Tom, there's one piece of advice. If someone does that, they can live a fulfilled life from now,
Build.
like today, not tomorrow.
Absolutely. So it leads on to kind of the end chapter of this is advice and inspiration. So if a person comes to you and they suspect that they might have ADHD but haven't explored it yet, how would you go about it?
So what I would say is, first things first, if they feel like they might have ADHD, but they haven't got a diagnosis, essentially, then I suppose step one is what you want to understand is your goal. Essentially, do you want to get confirmation that you've got ADHD? Or do you want like to be medicated? Or do you want like a solution that's more holistic without any like sort of medication? First, you need to understand like what is the negotiables, what are the negotiables and what are the non-negotiables essentially. So, for example, someone might, we have, for example, 65% of our academy say we don't want to be on medication. I'm not saying medication is terrible, it's just not for everyone, right?
Mm,
So, if someone doesn't want to be on medication, getting a diagnosis essentially just puts you on medication because the only option that they offer through the NHS or even privately is lifetime medication. So, if you're already saying as a hard stop, I do not want to be medicated and I want an alternative solution, then the diagnosis then only is for one other reason, which is if you just want confirmation. Now, confirmation nowadays, we live in a world where, again, 65% of people in my academy don't have a diagnosis, but are 99.9999999% certain they've got it because they tick every box. They've done about 23 assessments online that have confirmed it pretty much. They've literally watched every single one of my videos and resonated with everything and other channels and other pages. And when you're in that position, you don't really need confirmation because it's pretty much confirmed for you. Does that make sense? So I would just say that if someone's unsure, really where to start, just start with that. Like, what would be the end goal for you? Do you want a solution? Do you want like medication? Do you just want confirmation? There's like those three kind of options. But if you're unsure about even that, and you're unsure what the pros and cons are for even those options, which is fair enough. If you're new to it, you're new to it. Just seek some support, you know? Like someone like myself, for example, just reach out to me and my team. Reach out to you, Tom. You know, reach out
Exactly.
to
Yeah.
anyone,
Yeah.
you know,
Everyone will be more than welcome to join the table talk community
100%, man.
at some
100%.
point. So yeah, it's
Absolutely.
up to everyone
Yeah.
listening
That's
and
my best advice.
signpost your way. I think this is the beauty of creating this podcast is everything is collaborative. It's intertwined.
Yeah.
It's integrated. It's everything needs to be shared. We're all connected in some sort of way, aren't we?
Listen,
That's the
no,
way
no
of it.
screw up, Tom. I mean, I'm not claiming to be perfect. I never claim to be, and I don't. I could tell you now, I'm just as human as you and everyone else is in the world. But the difference between me and a lot of people is I was willing and prepared to get comfortably uncomfortable. And that's something that you need to be willing to do. You know, another piece of advice is just be willing to get uncomfortable. Because let's be honest, if you're struggling with ADHD, or even if you don't know you've got it or not, and you're struggling with certain feelings like overwhelm, anxiety, mental chaos, negative self-talk, trauma, whatever that might be, it's not exactly like a nice walk in the park now, is it? Do you know what I mean? So the best thing that you can do is just get comfortable being uncomfortable because growth can only exist outside of the comfort zone. So you see people that jump in ice baths, it's painful, but they do it because they know they're going to get stronger from it. They know they're going to feel better after it. It's like people that go to the gym. People that go to the gym, you're going to tear your muscle tissues for about an hour, but you know they're going to get stronger. People that go and play football, you know that your heart rate is going to reach crazy limits. Your heart's going to be like saying to you, "Hey, can you slow down, please? I can't take this anymore." But you know you're going to get fitter. Your mindset is no different to that. You need to be willing to stretch your limits in order to grow. I've never met one person, one ever, including yourself, Tom, that has been comfortable to change. There's always that slight block at the end, and you've got to be willing just to break through it. You know, when I found out I was going to be a dad and I was in all this debt and all these things were happening, I had to figure it out. You know, and it wasn't comfortable. It was extremely painful. I never saw my family for nearly 3 years. You know, I think I saw them like 3 times across 2.5 years. You know, that's it. That's not easy. 18, 19 hours a day, 6 days a week on a 9 to 5, plus 18, 19 hours a day. You're just non-stop working 7 days a week. It's not for the light-hearted. But if you don't want to spend 2.5, 3 years trying to figure this out like I did, then these are my 3 steps to success. Step one, find someone who is where you want to be, but was once where you are today. It's very important. Success leaves clues. It's as simple as that. You know, if I wanted to get fitter, I want to find someone who's in good shape and ask them how they did it. You know, if I wanted to learn how to start a podcast, I'll ask you, Tom, hey, Tom, how do you start a podcast? You know, finding someone who's done what you want to do is step one. Step two is immerse yourself into whatever they're doing and saying. Look at how they speak, look at how they talk, look at their mannerisms, look at how they hold themselves, and try to mimic them in your own style. And then step three is repetition, man. Just repetition, just do what you've basically done, just and mimic it and mimic it. Repetition, and eventually you start to build up a bit of muscle memory in your brain, you know? Start to like learn and become that person that you really wanted to be. So that's my advice.
Beautiful way. If someone is feeling, like you say, like we've touched upon, stuck, burnt out, or frustrated with themselves, where do they begin? But you've kind of spoke about it in the previous
Speak
sort of
up, man.
message with that.
That's it. Just speak
It's,
up to them.
yeah,
Look, literally, look, if someone's listening to this now and they can resonate with anything that I might have said or anything you might have said, step one is just to drop you a message. If you know, drop you a message.
well, our messages are always open, aren't they?
Absolutely. Same with me, man. Like, you know, my Instagram, for those that don't know, is Jordan_life coach. You know, you obviously you can share your handles. I'm sure you're sharing it on this podcast too. And
Definitely.
just speak up. The step one is just to speak to someone. Even if that person maybe isn't even the right person, you're still in step one, which is speak to someone. That's my best advice. And you're not alone. Like I was rock bottom at one point. I really struggled. I felt like a failure. I felt like a nobody. I suffered worse than people can comprehend. I grew up in a rough place, a rough neighborhood. I was broke. I've gone through it all, man. Gone through it all. And if I can get the other end, believe you me, so can anyone. I don't have any qualifications from a school or college. I never got any degrees. You know, I'm someone who's got real lived experience. I'm someone who's got actual life experience. I'm someone who was able to go from being almost bankrupt to building up a multiple six-figure business in less than a year and teach people how to do the same thing. I've gone from someone who was basically rock bottom in life to thriving in life. I'm someone who was almost about to end my entire marriage to now me and my wife are thriving now and we've got 2 kids. I'm someone who was overweight, 2 stone heavier than what I am today, pre-diabetic, high cholesterol and had high blood pressure, and I've suddenly reversed it all. So essentially, I've got a lot of lived experience here, and if you just want to learn how to do that, step one for me was just speak up. You're not alone. Speak to someone, and like I said, for your community, Tom, and I still stand by this. We're more than happy to do 2 things for your community. First thing, I'm more than happy you is to give me one of your codes. Give me a code, so I know they come through you. I'm happy to give them a free 60 to 90 minute roadmap call just to kind of see where they're at. So that's completely free. And then on top of that, what me and my team will do for them is we'll give them 10% off any of our tiers inside of the academy, completely because they've just taken action and we want to reward those types of people.
Lovely, lovely thing to do. And so yeah, it's weird. It's weird. Every single podcast I've done so far feels feels like introspection for myself. It's a weird thing because in my head I've been in situations where, and I think it's down to my career that I do now and that I love, and my football background is just that ability to just keep going, just
Yeah,
that relentlessness to keep going even if you know you're not going anywhere.
yeah,
There's there is a time when it all drops, it all clicks. And I was speaking to a person about sessions like yours, like mine, like this now, is the likelihood of creating a perfect session across a whole year is probably about once or twice. You will never get that sort of perfection in that. And that kind of alluded to everything you were speaking about then, was just a process. It's all about the process and
absolutely.
understanding that process.
And you need to understand that
And
results don't happen overnight too, Tom. It's linear. It's a very linear thing. Sorry to cut you off, but I feel like it's want to
yeah,
catch
you go
really
ahead.
because there's a golf analogy that we use, and for those that don't play golf, you still be able to understand the analogy I'm about to talk about. But if you do play golf, you'll understand it more. Imagine me and you now, Tom. We go and play around a golf, 18 holes, and I say, "Hey, Tom, why don't we bet a penny per hole? Penny per hole just sounds like pocket change. Like what? Literally 1 penny per hole. You're like, well, that's not even exciting, really." So cool. You're like, you say to me, George, why don't we just double it? Why don't we say every hole we just double it? So penny first hole, second hole is how much? 2 pennies, 2p. And you keep going. By hole 7, what are we betting by hole 7? What do you reckon we're betting by hole 7?
Oh,
I can tell you, by hole 7, you're betting 64p.
yeah.
By
It
hole
would
7,
just
right? But by hole 18, guess what the hole 18 bet is? I'll tell you right now. By hole 18, the bet for that hole is £1,310 and 72 pence. So you might be like, shit, we've gone through 7 holes and we're only betting 60 odd p. But by the 18th hole, you're betting nearly £1,500. So can you see how there's clearly a spike? And these are businesses, this is how life is. You do a lot of the same things over and over again, and you feel like you're not making progress, and then bang, just spiking, your life can completely change. Just if you ever feel like giving up, just go one more round. Just one more round, you know?
love it. What is one thing you wish every ADHD adult knew about themselves?
That they can be and do whatever they want to be and do. and they don't have to not just ruin their own life, but cause carnage in their own households and in their business and in their career. All of that is optional. And holding people accountable to it is optional. You don't have to live that life. So just know that you can be and do whatever you want to be and do. And if you're struggling right now, now you know that you've heard this conversation between me and you, Tom. It's optional struggle because there is always a way out there. There's no such thing as I don't have time, I don't have money, I don't have energy. These are all excuses. There are people that have been on universal credit, for God's sake, that figured it out. There are people that have gone from bankruptcies 3-4 times and then made millions. There are people that have 10 kids and find a way to have a business and everything else. Don't allow yourself to believe that you're not capable of anything you want to be or do. You are capable of doing anything you want. If you want to be a millionaire, you can. If you want to have the most healthy, thriving relationship, you can. If you want to be in the best shape of your life, you can. Don't use the bullshit excuse, mind my language, of I can't. Start saying I can and I will and I am. That's my advice.
I can and I will.
Yeah. And I
That's
am.
the way. So it leads into this one quite nicely is how can they turn that feeling of chaos into something powerful? I'm there
That
literally turning my hands, right?
you know, I wish people could see your hands.
Oh my days.
No. So that's a really good question. And I use the 3 Ps as my analogy for the situation. So you've got pain, pleasure, and purpose. And they're all the same thing. Just depends on what angle you're looking at it from. That's it. So what you're asking is how can someone turn the chaos, i.e. pain? Anything that's not amazing is painful. Let's just see it like that. Anything that's not incredibly exciting, joyful is pain. We can call it chaos, but mental chaos can be quite painful mentally. Overwhelm, overthinking, stress, trauma, pain, right? So pain, pleasure, and purpose are the same thing. How many times have you been intimate with a woman or a man and it's been a bit rough for that night? And in a weird way, there's been a bit of pain, but it's been quite pleasurable too. You know, so you can see pleasure can be mixed with pain. Pain is pleasure, pleasure is pain. At the same time, how many times can something be pleasurable? How many times can you sit there and you can go out for a nice restaurant or eat some takeout and it's pleasurable at the time, but then you feel horrible straight after. It feels painful. It's like, oh God, did I just do that? I feel like a slug, I feel lethargic, I feel tired. In other words, Tom, pain and pleasure are the same thing, but then it leads on to purpose because with pain comes purpose. In other words, you don't know what your purpose is until you've experienced a heavy amount of pain. There are people that only need to experience pain to then find their purpose. For example, for me, my purpose is to help people from all around the world. And there's no way on this planet that I could have ever done that if I never experienced a huge amount of pain. So the first thing I want to just drive home is if you're feeling the pain, let's just call it quote unquote, which could be anything that's not enjoyable in your mind right now. We just need to ask ourselves another question. Why is this happening for me? What is it trying to teach me? And where is the opportunity from this pain? Give you an example. Someone who is very close to you, my cousin passed away at a very young age. He passed away at the age of only 15 years old. And my uncle and auntie, God knows how they got through it. But one thing I can tell you right now is that happened. And today they are doing incredible things. They are changing lives all around the world. They are genuinely helping people. They're going to school to school and spreading awareness from what they went through. So they're converting and transferring that pain into purpose, which in a way might be giving them an element of pleasure because they're now helping people as well. Is this making sense, Tom?
Yeah, totally. I think, like you touched upon, and from my own personal experiences, once you understand that relationship with pain, you almost can face it and come back stronger.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Goes
if
back to
that
life.
if that's the way to see it, it's like you use this pain as a chance to catapult yourself into that pleasure and
Yeah,
purpose.
100%. And then the more you understand the 3 Ps, the less it'll scare you, Like, how many times have you ever gone into like an ice bath? I know I've done this many times. You go into an ice bath and it is painful to get in. After a minute, it becomes quite pleasurable. And then after you feel stronger, it's like it's giving you a stronger purpose. It's like you feel like you can handle it.
Yeah.
And then you show up
It's
better
it's
in other parts of
it's
your life.
funny. It is funny life because I have been thinking about it is everyone wants to get better, but they don't want to put themselves through what it takes to get better, if you
No,
know
I
what I mean.
absolutely agree. Everyone wants a six pack, not everyone's willing to do the sit up. You know, absolutely
And
agree
they
with that.
see that person with that six pack, but that person with that six pack has had to make so many sacrifices, late nights, you wouldn't even believe to
Yeah,
get to that point.
100%. And that kind of brings me on to add to that, to kind of talk to you about the strategy versus the state. You've got the strategy in lifetime. And when we look at strategy is the easy part. Strategy is, how am I going to build up a business and make millions? How am I going to thrive in my life? That's Strategy is easy. That's not the hard part. Let me ask you a question. Is it rocket science to know that eating McDonald's every day is bad for you? No. Is it rocket science to know that maybe if you exercise 2, 3 times a week, it might actually give you a bit of a health benefit? It's not rocket science to know this. Would you agree, Tom? And
Totally.
in in this situation that we're in, we live in a world where we have the highest rate of obesity. So why is that? If it's so simple to know that if you just move a little bit and stop eating fast food every day, maybe you might live a better life. The reason why is because people are so focused on the strategy that they forget the two fundamental parts before that, which is the first one. Before strategy is how you see yourself, your belief system. In other words, when you say I am, what comes after that? Life is, what comes after that? Everything always happens in my life comes after that. In other words, how you see yourself aligns with the results that you see in your life. So if you feel like you're worthless and you're never ever going to get anywhere and you're a failure, don't expect to be successful. Even if the strategy is easy, if I feel like I'm inconsistent, if I say I am inconsistent all the time, Tom, how do I expect to eat clean enough to see a result health wise? If I say, oh, I'm always unfit, how do I expect to even go and train? See, that's why the strategies become so hard. People that win the lottery, statistically, in the first 5 years, lose all of their money because their belief system is not in alignment with what they've just received. And then the before part of the belief system, the story that you tell yourself, it's a state of mind that you're in. In other words, how are you, when you look in the mirror, how are you seeing yourself? What's the thoughts that are going through your head? Is it like, oh, I'm a worthless piece of garbage? Or is it like, I'm a relentless, ferocious, successful, loving human being that's capable of anything and nothing could ever get in my way? How are you seeing yourself, and what's the thoughts that are going through your mind? So it's like the mindset then dictates how you believe in yourself, and then that then dictates the strategy that you either take or don't take. In other words, we're always taking the strategy to be more overweight, and to fail more, the strategy to be more successful and to maybe lose weight or to get into better health or to be happy or to thrive or to build a business. We're always following a strategy. Just sometimes the strategy isn't always what we want consciously.
Totally. So we've come to the end of our journey, so to speak. So to sum it up is if someone is listening today, they've tuned in, they've listened for however long, to part one to part two is, and this can be a general way of any human is if they're struggling to understand themselves, what would you want them to hear?
You are not alone. You are not alone. And speak up. Those are my biggest messages.
Amazing. Well, do you know what? Thank you so much.
My absolute pleasure, Tom.
Again, yeah, it's been. Do you know what? I've thoroughly enjoyed this.
Been a very, very powerful
Yeah,
session. Like I said, I
it
hope people
has
get
actually.
value.
Yeah,
I hope everyone gets
um,
value. So that's the main thing, right? To provide value.
absolutely. And like I said, I hope that it helps anyone who is listening, regardless if you are neurodivergent or not. You can take some stuff from it. And
Really.
like you spoke about your academy. So, say if people are listening and it's reached out to them, and because this podcast and this episode might still be there and people might touch upon it, where can we send you?
MindyourADHD.com. Literally go to mindyouradhd.com. That's where you can find me. You can learn more about what we do. You can see some real life stories about people that have made some really incredible transformations. And seeing is believing. So seeing transformation in others is the first step to believing that you could change too. So yeah, mindyouradhd.com. Alternatively, if you just want to drop me a direct message on Instagram, I tend to read all my messages as well. So George_life coach is my Instagram page. Or Tom, if they want to come for you, you see a comment and you want to comment on your where you're obviously posting this, feel free to do that. And then obviously through you as well, we'll help them out too.
Amazing.
All right. Awesome, man. Well, listen, Tom, thank you very, very much for your time and God bless you, man.